So I was a little traumatized because I felt really lonely in the sense that I was like, I don't want to be here. And the girl that I had been dating too, I came out to her and she's like, well, you know, we can work through this, and we'll like, you should go to the bishop and you should talk to him, and so it was this weird thing of like, she was really like my only friend at first, and just this Mormon world where everything was Mormon and every color was Mormon and everything was church. I definitely was like, this is too much for me. But I loved that, you know, I loved what I was learning. And anyway, then I auditioned for Young Ambassadors, and when I started doing the Young Ambassador thing, I was like, then I slowly got a little more sold on the church. And when we went to Russia, I kind of had my first sort of like missionary experience, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm in it. I was like, I think I like this now. And that's kind of when I decided I would serve a mission, if they let me, after my experimentations. No, but pretty much after I joined the church, I wasn't, didn't have any experiences, so to speak. I don't think. It's been a while. Anyway, so come back from Russia, and I sort of started talking to my one bishop of my ward, and I was like, yeah, I really want to serve a mission, and so we did some, work, and I read some books, and did
they have you go to counseling or anything?
No, they never had me go to counseling, because I sort of like, I didn't really know the lingo. I was so uncomfortable with, I kind of thought I sort of always had this thought of like, well, if I kind of reveal my true self, I'll be like ousted, even though I wasn't really doing anything technically wrong. And I didn't really get to, I think, how the church worked, and I literally thought I was the only Mormon who was gay and, doing the other thing, doing that, as they said in my mission. Anyway, so I sort of figured some things out, and I went home for a while. My sister had a big surgery. She had a transplant, a very big surgery, and so I put the mission thing on hold for a while. And then I, put in my papers and got my mission call to San Fernando, California. And, I think every missionary goes on this sort of like total high. I worked like so hard, and I definitely, I think now that I have better perspective on it, sort of like getting baptized and then going through the temple, going on a mission and fasting, all this, like I assumed it would all lead to the road of straight. And although I was super asexual, I think, on my mission and after for like a few months, yeah, but there was also, and the thing I think I loved the most about my mission is that it was sort of like there kind of wasn't status, you know what I mean? Like when you go to like a ward, you have like, oh, there's elders quorum president, and there's like the jocks, and then there's like this, and there's like the weird guy who plays the violin and sits at the back and like never talks, and then you kind of feel like you're sort of, everybody knows you're sort of like the gay at, in elders quorum or whatever. And I kind of felt like in the mission field, I kind of felt like that sort of, I don't know, the fact that you were just
you kind of get a free pass because you're a missionary.
Yeah, and you're like, you don't have to be dating, like you're like around guys all the time, and that's the norm.
Right.
And I loved it, and I like had some great friends. I even had this one companion. I was telling our friend Clark, who hopefully you'll meet one day. I was telling Clark this story about how I had this missionary companion who I had this weird crush on, but I never like realized it until thinking about it later. And I would go like dump cold water on him in the shower, and
oh my God,
like he would cuddle with me.
Right.
And, like, he's so not gay.
Right.
I knew he was not gay. He was just such like this like, I don't know, this like
lovable,
wonderful,
non-phobic,
loving, like completely non-judgmental being. And I would we would like cuddle on my bed, and there were like we were Spanish elders, and the English elders on the other side in the apartment would come over and be like, are you guys like cuddling? And he was like, would like defend me, and anyway, it was really weird, but it was really a beautiful sort of relationship, because I think he knew, and kind of saw like just sort of felt like this incredible, intense like need for like male affection and male validation. I don't know. It was really, really, really a great thing. Anyway, but there was also this weird side of it where he'd be showering and I'd like dump cold water on him. And this one day, literally, I dumped the cold water and he pulls back the curtain and he's like, "Here, is this what you want to see?" And I literally melted inside. It's like, oh shit, he knows. He knows. Like, and this whole time I was sort of thinking
like cuddling wasn't the clue.
Yeah, right? And like, come sit on my lap, El de Casablanca. Like, all these things weren't the clue. But anyway. Skip to like,
we should share stories about that.
Oh, we definitely should. And I was like the perfect missionary, you know?
Same.
I baptized like a mother and I you know, I was a zone leader and an assistant and like, I was like, I think I'm gonna be able to go home, find a young, worthy wife, and, you know, go to the temple and all this stuff. Anyway, after I taught in the MTC for a while after I came home, and right after that, I moved to an apartment, and my home teacher started coming, and I've never really had home teachers, and one of them was very cute.
Oh.
And yes, and we became very good friends, and we went on some double dates with some girls, which was odd. And then, you know, like one night we're like talking, and we had been friends for like a few months at this point. And we're sort of talking, and it's getting really late, and at this point I had sort of started like really dealing with like I'd started getting really depressed, like having these Sundays where I would just wake up and I was just like dark depression of like I'm frigging gay, like I don't know what to do about this. And I was going to talk to my bishop, and my bishop was like, you know, I just think if you just pray, and are you going to the temple, are you worthy, you know? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing all of this, and anyway, so like there were these days of like just this utter depression. And two, you know, even though at this point I had sort of clued in to the fact that there were gay people at BYU, and that the gays did exist in the LDS culture, but still at that point, you know, feeling really super lonely because I was not talking about it with anybody except like a bishop every blue moon. And, you know, so anyway, so my home teacher, you know, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're talking, and he's like, you know, we're kind of like getting, you know, down to like, you know, intimate details of our lives, and he's like, well, you know, do you like, what's like your darkest secret? And of course we both knew that we're like totally gay, and we're totally hot for each other. We're like so attracted to each other. And I was like, I'm just gonna go there, and like my heart's beating, and I'm like, and I'm like, well, you know, I'm definitely attracted to men and women, of course. Like, putting that in the bi. I'm like, bi, and he's like, I was like, yeah, you know, and I've like looked at some porn, and I was like, and then I just kept going. I was like, you know, when I was in high school, I sort of like fooled around with this guy. I was like, you know, we got to maybe second base or maybe third, I don't know. But, you know, nothing, like, serious, and I was like, and I said, and we never kissed. We never kissed. It was just this weird thing of, like, kind of like we were friends, and we both knew we had curiosity. Anyway, so we talk, and by this time it's, like, 3:30 in the morning, and, like, I'm, like, getting tired, and he's, like, not spilling his secret, which I knew he had. He's like, well, yeah, I have a secret, too. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I've ordered Playgirl. No, I think he said I've ordered porn before. And I was like, really? And I was like, what kind of porn? And he's like, well, it was Playgirl. And my parents caught me. He's like, but I'm cool now.
Oh, jeez. Can you imagine?
So, like, the next, like, 2 weeks... Yeah, the next 2 weeks
my God.
The next 2 weeks go on, and, like... There was just like this, and all I wanted to do was talk to him, and all I wanted to do was see him, and like...
He never said any more besides...
That was kind of it, like, I could tell he didn't kind of really want to talk about it.
Okay.
At least that's what my memory is serving, and...
That's my secret, bye!
Yeah, bye. I mean, you know, I think he might have even like slept on the floor and whatever. And so like the next 2 weeks we were just like seeing each other all the time, and like... I was just obsessed, and you know, we both sort of knew that like even now when I talk about it, you know, you get sort of like flutters.